I just wanted to briefly introduce myself. So my name is Doyle Irvin. I am the head of marketing here at Elvex, and we are joined by Sachin, our founder CEO. I recently joined Elvex. This is day two of my third week. And there's a little bit of a history here. I purchased Elvex for my last company, WordPress VIP, and we're going to talk through the case study of the adoption of the tool. And after a few months of being in it and using it every single day, I was like, man, I just want to join that company. I'm having so much fun, and also just the technology is pretty compelling, and it's great to be hands-on. And so here I am. A few weeks later, a few months later. And that's kind of my backstory. So, Gene, you want to say hi?
Hey everybody. So yeah, founder CEO of Elvex. And we originally got started really looking at how enterprises in general were going to adopt generative AI solutions, realized that there were a whole host of problems to solve, ranging from risk mitigation all the way through to the topic of today, which is how do we get people actually using this and getting value and extracting value out of Gen AI. And so that was the kind of like founding thesis for Elvex. We have several customers at Elvex, ranging from companies that are doing, kind of 100 million in revenue all the way up to public companies doing 10 billion plus in revenue. So we have a good mix of kind of how people are using this. And that includes a bunch of different verticals ranging from tech to security to marketing, to media, all of which are using AI to really solve problems and get value out of Gen AI. So yeah, it's been really fun making that a tangible thing in the intangible of what AI could do, which I feel like we've been in for a while now. So getting to the like, okay, this is what can actually happen has been really rewarding on our side.
We have about 20 minutes of quick content that we're going to go through. We're going to cover kind of our market guide and how we think about how to evaluate all the AI tools that are out there, because there's a lot. We have a few implementation best practices and enablement to kind of go from, hey, I think some people on my team are using ChatGPT, all the way through like my whole team, my whole organization is using LLMs to accelerate their work. And then we have a few example real business use cases from both our customer set and what we've seen in all of our conversations. We talk to companies implementing AI at various stages in the adoption curve all day, every day. And so we've seen the full spectrum. We are going to be sending out the recording afterwards and the slide deck, which has a bunch more use cases that we're not going to have the time to cover. We're saving the last 10 minutes for Q&A. So submit your questions as we go through, and we'll get to them at the end. But please ask anything you want. That's half the point here, is that
Yeah,
whatever questions that you have, send one
and
over.
just on how to do that, at the very bottom of your Zoom bar, there should be like a Q&A button. You just hit on that, type away. Those will flow through to us, and we'll address those questions like Doyle said at the very end here.
All right, so let's get started with the first bit, which is AI tool evaluation frameworks. So one of the things that is 100% true is that everyone expects AI to be a major part of their strategies in 2025, but they're still in this kind of stage where they ask to create a graph that shows 92% on one side and 9% on the other side, and you get a graph with three sections and the numbers are all wrong. So you can understand why people are struggling to see, is this actually useful in business use cases, and what are we doing? And as you're evaluating these tools and where you're going to find this value, if you thought the SaaS market was getting confusing with Notion starting to have calendars and Zoom starting to have docs and Slack starting to have project management tools, the AI market is just incredibly confusing and all over the place. So we put together an evaluation framework, and we've engaged with other people of other evaluation frameworks as well. And Sachin, can you talk us through how these stages work?
Yeah, so this actually comes from BCG, Boston Consulting Group. They have a really good website on AI and kind of adoption in general. And we really like how they kind of frame the curve of how you're going to adopt AI. Now, though there are these stages here, and though you can take these stages in a serial manner, deploy, reshape, event, it doesn't mean that you have to. So there are companies that are doing these things in parallel. And we can kind of think about these three as deploy being, hey, how do we get everybody at our company hands-on with Gen AI, using it kind of ad hoc and everyday use cases that they might have individually. And so we see a lot of companies kind of over the past year in that stage. With giving people the tools to use Gen AI, but not really kind of forcing it through a certain kind of evaluation framework, which is on the reshape side here. So that is really thinking about how to make it key area of ROI. How do we introduce new processes? How do we develop new skills? How do we make sure that there's talent and tech for taking care of what is happening? You could really think about this as being the stage two of like AI transformation in your workplace. Really making sure that it is generating more capability and ROI for your organization. And then the final stage here is invent. And that is where you're really taking generative AI to invent entirely new things for your business. That could be a new product. That could be entirely new business units. That could be new internal functions that didn't exist before. And that is kind of the final stage as you think about AI transformation for you. Now, what exists along this right now is that you can see at the very bottom that as you move to the right, that means that you're going to have better AI capabilities, but you're also going to have better return on your investment as you go from kind of generic use cases all the way through to reinvention of invention of new products and new business units here. The downside to this is that also traditionally, as you go to the right, you're introducing complexity and you're increasing the need of resources for this. So the complexity side is going to be like, well, what is the effect of introducing new talent and skills into this, or how are we going to resource a engineering team to build a new AI product that we're going to offer. And so all of that takes more kind of complexity and resources. So as you're looking through this framework to the right, you're going to increase capability and ROI, but you're also going to increase complexity and resources. And so let's talk about how this can happen with you. So there's three main kind of like product solutions that you can think about that'll allow you to move along this adoption curve. The first one is point solutions. So an example of that would be, if you guys are familiar with Notion, they introduced Notion AI. Or think about any other kind of SaaS cloud offering that you have right now and their like AI-ification of what they offer, introducing a new way to synthesize information, etc. So the pros of this is that, people are already familiar with the software. So it's like very minimal employee training, and it's pretty easy to get started with these point solution AI adoption pieces of software. But the con is that it tends to be very expensive because you're going to have to then enable AI for all the different SaaS tools that you might have. So I don't know, that might be a dozen, that might be a couple of dozen different tools if you really want to adopt AI within each of them. And you're going to have limited flexibility and kind of integration across the org because these tend to live within their own verticals. They're not going out and talking to other pieces of data, other pieces of software, generally speaking. And so that gives you kind of limited flexibility with how you can use each individual AI. The second is AI platforms. This is where LVEX falls into. And the nice thing about AI platforms is that there's interoperability and future proofing. A lot of these platforms say that you can bring whatever AI models you want to the table. So whether that's Anthropic or OpenAI or Google, they can work with any of those. And these are platforms so they can sit across the entire organization to use and leverage. Now, the downside to this is that most of these tend to be very developer focused and very complex. And so even though they can be exposed across the org, it can take a lot to get people familiar with how to build with them, how to leverage them. And you tend to rely on whatever the platform has in terms of their model and platform integration. So if they're not connected to the right data source for you, or they're not leveraging a model that you want, you're kind of at the whims of those AI platforms that you choose. And then the last one here is LLM providers themselves. So going directly to the source of where these new technologies are being developed. So working directly with OpenAI or Anthropic or Google or Microsoft. And this is nice because you can go directly to kind of who's developing this. They tend to have the largest ecosystem. But the problem that exists with these is that you run the risk, the biggest risk of being locked into a model that might not be the best. Let's not even talk about next year. Let's talk about next month or next week. As new models emerge every single week, you're kind of at risk of being locked into the ones that might not be the most performative. So it's a really kind of nascent space right now, and picking to tie yourself to one model can be very risky in the long run. Another kind of risk there is just the nature of where these companies are. So, although like OpenAI is clearly the market leader right now, there's a lot of turmoil going on with OpenAI at the top. A lot of executives leaving, a lot of kind of a lot of kind of issues with like where are they getting their financing from and who's going to finance that stuff. And so you just have to make sure that you're protected in that case. And then also they tend to be mostly developer focused when you want to build on top of them, and not kind of as friendly as they could be. So this is really the only sales slide that we have at Elvex, but it's important here because with Elvex, really what we're trying to solve, if you go back to the two slides before, Doyle, is we're trying to give you the capability and ROI without taking on the risk of the complexity and the resources. And so we're really trying to solve for giving you rapid acceleration and giving you the capability and ROI to move along this adoption curve or to do these things in tandem. So we make it simple, easy to build and transform kind of workflows with LLM powered apps. We make it future proof. We work with all of the big model providers, allowing you to switch to models in a few seconds. And then we make it centralized. And this is really important for enterprise where you want to make sure it's locked down, secured, and you can scale AI adoption in the way that you want to here.
Exactly. And so that was really to tell the story of how I ended up at Alvex here. I was at a company called WordPress VIP, which is the platform of note for some of the largest digital properties in the world. So CNN, Time, Bloomberg, they're running their websites and on WordPress VIP. And so we have this big team, about 100 people in sales and marketing, more in customer success, et cetera, et cetera. And we had our COO come to me and he said, Doyle, we need our team to start using LLMs and AI in order to just do better work and be faster. On the other hand, I go to the CTO and he says, my engineers need to be building product. I don't have time to set up AI solutions for you. I can't be a service org within our team. You need to figure something out. And on the other hand, I had our head of legal saying, you absolutely need to make sure that every single data protection is in place because, I don't want to be the reason that Al Jazeera's website goes down, things like that, or that things get leaked. So we had all these different challenges and I was like, okay, how do I find a solution here? And that's how I ended up finding Alvex. I'm a non-technical person. I needed a way to bring AI, needed to bring my data, needed to enable the entire team at the same time. And we ended up in a situation where nearly 2/3 of our 100% team within 3 weeks were using AI every single day to do things like sales emails, to answer product questions, to do all this different stuff. One of the major time savings was on RFPs. But the main thing that I was trying to do was I was trying to automate about half of my job. I was in a situation where I would get Slack DMs every single day about like, Doyle, how do I talk about this feature? Do we have any customers who do this thing? How do I, communicate all these different things? How can I fill out this RFP? How can I et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I was in this kind of questions answering role where a lot of people are like, I don't know how to do that. Go ask Doyle. And so I'd get distracted from all of my deep work all the time. And I ended up building a thing that would take all of those questions and answer them via AI. And it was huge. It was amazing. I was able to actually focus on my job much more completely. And I would say that we got through the first two stages of the adoption framework that you can see here. We didn't quite yet get to an invention of a new, business line or product model or way of doing business, but we completely changed, how we thought about getting work done, and how we thought about like the value we can provide in our various roles, and also what skills are necessary in the workforce going forward. So it was quite exciting. And I got so excited that I joined Alex. So here we are. Thank you, Sachin. So continuing on here, we want to talk about some of the implementation strategies. So I just implemented AI across 100 people. What are some of the things that you see? We have a bunch of other customers with large teams, and we also see people who have tried implementing, a DIY, build it yourself, and the struggles that they see with that, or they're using some of the, major platforms. And here's some strategies, some takeaways, etc. There is, the reality of that most of the companies out there see that there is value in AI, but only about a quarter of them are in a state where they're actually getting value, which is this huge delta that everyone's trying to solve. One of the main things that I've seen, Sachin has seen, our whole team is seeing all over the place is that what doesn't work is when someone in the C-suite says, hey, we need to do this, but they don't ever actually try it themselves. LLMs are weird. They're kind of strange. It's a new way of computing. The way that I most frequently think about it is that we're back to this era of percussive maintenance. It's not working. Okay, slap the TV, try it again, see if you can get the result that you were trying to get over again. So that kind of first person actually experiencing how LLMs work, the kind of answers you get, what it takes to get a good result, it's super key. It's super necessary, and you really need to be hands-on. But Sachin, I was hoping you could talk through some of the more other findings that you've seen with implementation strategies.
Yeah, there's like several things that you can do to just make sure this work, but to speak towards what Doyle just talked about getting the C-level on board with this, trying it out. Change management is really important here too from a C-level's perspective. It is not it does not work to simply say, hey, we're going to try Gen AI, everybody gets access to ChatGPT, go figure out how to use this. That is a recipe for failure and how to make AI work for your org. It is really important that when you're thinking about change management in terms of like AI transformation, that you have some like clear goals set, that this is what we expect to happen here. This is how we're going to use it. These are the things that we're going to do to help resource our initiatives here. And so that is really kind of the most important thing is, can you get the stakeholders here, whether that's an AI steering committee, whether that is, some C-levels on your team, really on board with what this can and should do for our organization. The second thing is you got to find out who the champion is for this. Who's going to raise their hands to say, hey, I'm willing to go and try this stuff out and be the guinea pig for our new initiatives here. These could be department leaders, these could be individual contributors, but finding those champions are really key. And then tying that to a use case that they have is really key too. So saying like, hey, this is where I think AI can help us out. This is how I think we can make this work for our organization and how we think this can be ROI positive in a significant way. If you can really nail that use case and kind of like share the progress around that publicly, whether that's through like, internal comms, whether that's through something where somebody is presenting that to the company, that can be really motivating for the rest of the organization. Obviously, with all this stuff, you got to test, test, test. So you got to walk along the curve of experimentation to understand whether it's meeting the mark for your organization. And you got to make sure you're connecting data to AI, because that is just an important area where you can make it more performative and make it really succeed for your organization. Overall, though, what we see across organizations is that the lowest hanging fruit for where you can make really quick impact with teams is on the sales, marketing, and operations side. A lot of those teams have easy kind of use cases to get out of the gate with building kind of bespoke apps that we see on the LVEX side, and getting like really tangible results out of that fairly quickly. And that can be kind of your use cases that you share, and can be like the champions that you find in those departments. And then if we think about kind of how you can walk along the implementation process here, kind of talk through this a little bit already, but like the four things that you need to do is find your focus objective, your specific or SMART goal that you have for the app that you're making, or the what you're trying to get AI to do, connecting it to the critical data that's going to make it, again, more accurate, make it more tied to something that is meaningful and matters for your organization. Have it be easy to use. Like, nobody wants something that's going to be really, really complex to use. So just have it be a user-friendly interface with a logical flow of interactions here, straightforward instructions for the users, and then documentation, just making sure that you keep that accurate and up to date over time. This is traditionally have how engineers work. So you're kind of approaching this problem like an engineer, but you're doing it without having needing the kind of expertise of an engineer, just because of how LLMs and developing LLM apps work.
Yeah, and you're solving a bunch of problems that, it used to be that you'd need technical resources to solve that problem. Now you don't need those. Um, so we want to talk through a few of the example use cases, but one thing I wanted to add, something that's really cool that one of our customers is doing, is that they've made an application process for the role of creating AI apps, which makes it incentivized. This is something that you can frame as something that your employees can strive to. You can become the person that makes change at your business, which I think is just a really good way of framing it, because that is just, it's awesome. People start thinking about, okay, how can I do this? What will this do for my career? If I have this skill set, am I prepped for the next 5 years? Things like that. And I thought that was awesome. So let's talk through some real use cases. We're going to ground this in the general capabilities. So Gene, do you want to talk to us about, how to think about LLMs and chaining them together to create an app?
Yeah, and I think people generally know this, so I'm going to go over this relatively quickly. But basically, what AI can do is it's really good at looking through information, summarizing or searching from that information. It can analyze data, it can role play, it can generate content, it could do a bunch of different things here. But really, what we tend to find is that when you string a few things together here, you can get really, really significant outputs for that. So an example would be like evaluating a customer support ticket, searching for answers for that inside of like an internal knowledge base, and then generating an answer based on a style guide that you might have for customer support, that then a human can review and make sure that this is meeting the mark for the organization. And that can be something that would normally take, I don't know, a couple of hours or several hours, and that can be condensed into a few minutes. So it could be a really big time saving things here. But when you're connecting these things together, that's when you get some really good output out of AI.
Exactly. Um, so um, so this is one of the first things that I did at VIP. The most important thing here was collecting all of the information that lives in various places within an organization. So your product documentation, all of your case studies, a list of all your customers. I downloaded the entirety of our website. So we got every piece of marketing content that was ever written, but also every piece of technical content. I got about 20 or 30 previously filled out RFPs, all of our messaging in terms of how to talk about certain competitors. Okay, WordPress versus Drupal versus Adobe versus whatever, objection handling, what does open source mean, things like that. And all of our internal process guides of like, how do I update this thing in Salesforce? How do I follow up with this customer. We had a bunch of internal documentation on best practices and guides. And this just became our general knowledge bot of like, if you have a question that most people on sales or marketing or relationship management or customer success might need to answer, they can go here first and probably get a good answer. And that creates focus time for all of your, I don't know, go ask this person type of employees. The second one that I think is really awesome, um, we call it the prep for your day bot. I know Sachin uses this one. We've seen people use it for executive briefings. So if you have a big customer meeting and you're bringing in the CEO to talk to this person, you can use AI to help you prep. And so you get all of your iCalendar events. You get all your meeting call transcripts from previous interactions. You get CRM data, and you get some messaging frameworks. And then you can have the bot Google everybody that you're going to meet with that day, reference all of the information from all of your past customer interactions, and prepare you with specific talking points that are like, okay, you're going to talk to someone in operations. Here's how you talk to someone in operations. You're going to talk to someone who's technical. Here's how you talk to someone who's technical. And a lot of us spend all day, every day in meetings, and we would all like to have the perfect outcomes of all of our meetings. This app helps you make sure that that happens, which I think is pretty awesome. The last one that I wanted to cover here, or maybe we have another one after this. We have about 10 more in the PDF that we're going to send you
I think this
afterwards.
could probably be the last one, just so we have enough time for questions.
Yeah, absolutely. So customer success is a huge value area for AI. If you have a history of successfully closed tickets, which most businesses do, you can take all of that information, you can take your product documents, and you can prepare every single ticket that gets sent to your team with a ready-made answer that a human agent can then either use it or discard it or edit it. So you still have that final touch of like, is this a good answer? You still have that final touch of, is it correct? Or, is there anything that's missing? But you don't have your support team staring at a blank page thinking about how to solve a problem. They get to start with a head start, maybe 80% finished on every single ticket that gets submitted to them. So that's pretty exciting. We have a ton more. We're going to email them to you. Don't worry, the resource is coming. But let's get to Q&A.
Yeah,
We
so
have,
I have
go
a
ahead.
couple of queued up for you based on what we have here, for you specifically, Doyle. So
Okay.
one was just how did you when you were introducing LVEX or any other AI into your organization, how did you talk about it with the team? Did you like run into any people that were scared or feel fearful of AI? How did that get broached?
I think that the two main things were like, how's this actually going to help me? Because I haven't been paying attention to AI and like, what am I going to do with it? So there was the like, how am I actually going to use it? And then there was questions around accuracy and data security. And so that, I mean, those were one of the main reasons that we got LVEX was, we could pre-configure an app and have it be very prescriptive and like use this thing for this reason to write an email or to prep for a sales call or to whatever. So it solved the what am I supposed to do with this problem? And it also saw LVEX also solved the data security problems that are rampant around AI as people have worries about their corporate data.
And then
Um,
like a follow up there was just how did you end up finding champions at WordPress VIP? Was there a process there? Or did that happen naturally? What was the best way to do that?
um, I knew the team very well and I kind of knew their personalities. And so I could tell when people are excited about things and when they're not. And I would work with the people who are excited and you kind of uncover them in all these different teams. So we had a BDR who was really excited about it. We had a solutions engineer who was really excited about it. The whole team at the start was not, but that's just because they hadn't gotten their hands on it yet. And as we introduced it to them, as we got them to actually use the tool, one of the things that I did, these big training sessions with 100 people on them, but I also set up one-on-two meetings with everyone on the team. So it was about 15 hours of my time. No, probably more like, what is that? I don't know, 20-ish or so. And those one-on-two meetings were just me and two people, and it required them, to actually pay attention. Because when you have 80 people on a call, half of them are, slacking or emailing on the side. But when it's just you and two people, they have to actually click on the button, see what the thing is, experience it for themselves. And as soon as they started doing that, there was just this like light bulb moment of, oh, okay, this is actually kind of cool. I'm glad that I showed up and started clicking the buttons and started using the tool.
Nice. So we have another question specifically about LVEX. The question is there a limitation to LVEX's capabilities? Are there use cases that you don't think would be a good fit for the tool? Yeah, so no, of course there's no limitations. LVEX can do anything. No, that's not accurate. So there are limitations right now. The current limitation that I would say can wind up in tricky spots with apps that are developed inside of LVEX is when you're asking the AI to do something very complex. A right way to think about how to work with AI right now is like think about it as, a junior intern that you just hired that's very, very capable, can do a ton of different things, but you need to give it very clear instructions for what it can do. Right now, if you do give it clear instructions, but it's a multi-step thing, so you need to go do this and then this and then this and then this, at any one of those steps, things can kind of go off the rails and then the whole thing will fall down. Now, this is a limitation of today, but it's actually one of the active things that we're working on at LVEX right now. And we do think we have a way to solve for that, which will likely launch in the next few weeks here. So that's one of the biggest limitations, one of the things that we're solving. And then the other one is that we're always working on more integrations with more tools that are external to LVEX. So for example, we support things like Google and Google Drive and Microsoft and Dropbox, but we're adding more functionality to a host of other SaaS tools that exist so we can pull data in and use that to build things. I know we're at time here. We're actually a couple minutes over, but maybe we can get to one more question and then we'll close up for the webinar. So another question that I have here is, do you see companies use more than one solution? And I think what they mean here is the reference to the slide where it said point solution AI platforms and LLMs. And the answer to that is yes. We do not expect that a company will centralize on one thing there, because there are going to be really good ways that a point solution integrates AI where you do think you want to purchase that upgrade or purchase that feature and use it there. And there are also, companies that will just go direct to the LLM and purchase that for a specific use case where their development team is kind of building directly on top of that. But generally what we see is that when you introduce an AI platform like LVEX, for example, a lot of the AI use cases move towards that platform because of kind of the ease of use and the ability to manage that. And so that is what we see. It's not 100%. Use cases still will exist outside of it, but a lot more of it is functioning on top of the platform. Okay, I think that's it for now. Thanks everybody for joining today. Hopefully this was useful. Like Doyle said, we're going to send out the recording and the slide deck that has a bunch more use cases on top of it of what Doyle shared today to give you guys more ideas around how to leverage AI. Thanks so much.
Thanks, everyone. Have a good one.